And I remember them saying, like, your sin always finds you out, basically. And I was just gutted, so I didn't get my bourbons that night. But
that's such a great story and so much sweeter than the one I was going to say. So I was out to dinner with my wife, Stephanie, about 2-3 weeks ago, this was now.
Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible. If you like the idea of a casual yet meaningful chat about the Bible with a couple of mates listening, something in here could be good for you today.
Today is day 219, covering Isaiah 45, 46, 47 and 48. If you need a brief overview of those chapters, they are in the description.
So we were chatting, was it yesterday, about how our first verses have been like way off later in the chapter and stuff. I actually have it as the first one today. I realized what I was doing is rather than reading each day, I just started reading chunks of Isaiah. And so when you're doing it the first one of the day, you're like, oh, okay, I need to find something here. But when I wasn't doing that, suddenly I was just finding what random that jumped out at me, which I kind of preferred doing. So I can't remember whether this is chance or I realized that one of my days started on 45, but here we are. So it's chatting about, this is what the Lord says to the anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I take hold of, to subdue nations before him, strip kings of their armor, doors fall open before him. They will not be shut. I will go before you, will level the mountains, will break down gates of bronze, cut through bars of iron. I'll give you treasures of darkness, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name. And what I loved about that was the absolute strength in that first section, followed up by the God of Israel, who summons you by name. It kind of reminded me to what we were chatting about like a few days ago of the God who brushes away the tear from your cheek kind of thing. So tender, so loving, so caring. But actually, the strength and power of the dude is just like, whoa, holy smokes. You don't see two of those put hand in hand often, do you?
No, you don't. It's extraordinary. And you're absolutely right. And I guess it kind of links to what I was saying yesterday or the day before about how he's also the father that holds you by your hand as well as you go through it. So again, it's that power and that tenderness. You're absolutely right, mate. Awesome. Okay, so then 46 verse 13. I am bringing my righteousness near. It is not far away, and my salvation will not be delayed. I will grant salvation to Zion, my splendor to Israel. It's just important to take stock and remember when you're especially evangelizing and things like that, that God's forgiveness is right there, accessible always to anyone who will just reach out and take it. It's a free gift of grace. Yeah. He loves all of us. He doesn't want to see any of us in the, in the enemy's hands and in hell ultimately. So it's right there. I am bringing my righteousness near, so don't be afraid when you're evangelizing to let people who are not saved know that. It's right there. They just have to take it.
Smashing. Yeah, absolutely. It actually kind of reminds me of a point I was going to make, not too sure on, from 45 in Isaiah 45, 22, 23, which is turn to me and be saved, all you ends of the earth, for I am God, there is no other. By myself I have sworn, my mouth has uttered in all integrity a word that will not be revoked. Before me every knee will bow, every tongue will swear. And it's just that, it's like you said, like it's just so available, it's so close, and like it's exactly that. It sort of sums it up, 10, 20, 12 verses before it or something like that. I love it, just how the Bible entwines.
It's great. The most hyperlinked book that has ever been created.
Yeah, no kidding.
Go for it. Bring it on.
So I think that was me next. I wrote down some hieroglyphics instead of numbers, apparently by accident. So I was talking here in Isaiah 47, and I see, full disclosure, the bit that caught my eye was like, lift up your skirts, bare your legs. And I was like, what is that chatting about? And then I sort of I could say that as a joke. And I was like, oh, there's a good point to be made in here. And effectively, it was saying, lift up your skirts, bare your legs, wade through the seams. Your nakedness will be exposed, your shame uncovered. I will take vengeance, I will spare no one. But it's this whole, your nakedness will be exposed, your shame uncovered. It will be found out in the end.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you try to spin it and twist it and get by and justify it to yourself, it will be found out in the end. And don't get so focused and caught up on other people of like, oh, they're going to find out about you with that you miss. Again, we've chatted about this several times, the plank in your own eye versus the speck in somebody else's. Like all the little things. I remember when I was a little kid, Bourbon biscuits, mate, they are my absolute kryptonite. My folks bring me Tesco Bourbon biscuits. They're the pinnacle, mate. None of these McVitie's, Tesco Bourbons. I remember when I was a kid, I grabbed like 2 or 3 out of the biscuit tin and I snuck them under my pillow so I could have them after I'd gone to bed. And I remember, I can't remember, it was my mum and my dad saying goodnight, like put their hand under my pillow, which I swear they never did. They must have known something was up. Pulled out these Bourbons and I remember them saying like, your sin always finds you out, basically. And I was just gutted, so I didn't get my Bourbons that night. But
that's such a great story and so much sweeter than the one I was going to say. So I was out to dinner with my wife, Stephanie, about 2-3 weeks ago, this was now. And we were talking about different places we want to go. And one of the places that came up was Amsterdam. And obviously Amsterdam is famous for some pretty sinful stuff. And she asked me whether I had ever engaged in some of the things in Amsterdam. And initially I was like, oh, no, some of my friends did some of that, but no, I always didn't. And then I checked myself and immediately I said, you know what, I'm really sorry. I don't ever want to lie to you in our relationship. Yeah, I did. I went to Amsterdam and I did some of that stuff in the past and I'm not proud of it and so on. And she appreciated that so much. And you're exactly right. I knew that the sin will catch up with me at some point. So I'd rather own it and just say it as it was. And that's to people in your own life, let alone when you're held to account, obviously, which is the most important bit. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit more naughty than Bourbon biscuits under the bed, I have to say. But yeah, it's a great point and it's taken up half the episode, but it's well worth remembering. So if you're dealing with any sins right now, just remember that God has got you and will help you through those. And the sooner you expose that darkness and that sin to the light, the sooner that the healing can begin.
Yeah. So, don't believe the lie that it will end, because God finds redemption. God brings you through it.
Absolutely. Okay, couple more points then. So Isaiah 47 verse 10. I go from saying Isaiah, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, it bugs the crap out of me, but I've chosen to ignore it.
It's the best option. I'll start saying Izzy. Even worse. Anyway, 47 verse 10. You have trusted in your wickedness and have said, no one sees me. Your wisdom and knowledge mislead you when you say to yourself, I am, and there is none besides me. So it links to what we've already been saying, really. People do try and get away with things like lying, stealing, cheating, whatever, but you can't get away with it. And you might think that there's nothing after this, but guess what? Whether you believe there is or not, there is. And it will all be held to account. So that's a nice little add-on to what we're saying.
Yeah. Nah, I like that, bro. We both have 1 point each. I just glanced at what yours is and I prefer it. So I'm going to say mine first and you can bring us home. Okay. Isaiah 48, 17 to 18. This is what the Lord says. Your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I'm the Lord. Teach you what's best for you. Direct you in the ways you should go. If only you'd paid attention to my commands, your peace would have been like a river, your well-being like the waves of the sea. And this whole if only you'd paid attention sounds like me in class, but either or. But it's like he's told us what to do, and we could have had peace like a river, well-being like the waves of the sea, and I suppose we still can. But it's just trusting his instruction. Like it's for our absolute best. He's not saying this because he's this bad, he doesn't want you to have your Bourbons under your pillow. He's saying it because he wants the absolute best for you. We just have to be obedient.
Yeah, 100%. You're exactly right. The Bourbon thing, that actually reminds me of a thing I think I'm going to say tomorrow about how God is a better parent to us than our own parents can ever be. Yeah, that's for tomorrow. But for today, Isaiah 48 verse 9, for my own name's sake, I delay my wrath. For the sake of my praise, I hold it back from you so as not to destroy you completely. So there's a great preacher that I love. I think you know him as well, Ads, right? Matt Chandler.
Yeah.
And he talks a lot in several of the sermons I've seen of his. He talks about how everything ultimately is meant for God's glory. Even not destroying Israel is part of God's plan and part of his own glorification. So, it couldn't be clearer there, right? For my sake, for the sake of my praise, I don't destroy you. So he doesn't need us. He doesn't need any of us to do any of this stuff.
Very true, dude. Love it.
Sweet.
So tomorrow, Isaiah 49 through to 53. Please read it.
In the meantime, join us on social media at 2 Brits on Bible and share this with someone if you care to or not, whatever. It's really your choice after all.